Franchising, it feels like the golden ticket, right? A proven model for explosive growth. But what happens when that amazing blueprint starts to crack under the pressure of its own success? Well, today, we're going to dig into the hidden challenges that can totally derail even the best franchise systems, usually right after they get off the ground.
Okay, picture this. You've got a fantastic brand, a solid plan, franchisees are lining up, everything seems perfect. But under the surface, a fault line can start to form, and it threatens to pull the whole thing apart. That's exactly what we're exploring today, that hidden crack in the foundation.
So let's start at the very beginning. The journey for most new franchise systems kicks off with a ton of excitement, right? You've got expert guidance, you're ready to go. But as we're about to see, that big launch is really just the first step in a much, much longer journey. So the typical process starts with what you could call the foundation stage. A consultant is usually key here. They help build the whole framework. Then, boom, it's launch time. The first franchisees are on board. But here's the kicker. After that, the consultant's job is pretty much done. And this creates what the source calls the gap. That moment where the new franchisor is suddenly all alone, trying to figure out what in the world comes next. And it's in this gap where the real trouble starts to brew. This is where we get to the core concept here, something called the franchise fault line. Think of it as this silent pressure point that can have a huge, and I mean huge, impact on a growing franchise. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? New franchisors are suddenly thrown into this big leadership role they've probably never had before, and they're facing challenges they just couldn't have possibly seen coming. So what is this fault line exactly? Well, it's this growing tension. On one side, you've got the franchisor, who's trying to scale the brand fast and keep everything consistent. But on the other side, you have the franchisees, the folks on the ground who desperately need real hands-on support to succeed. And when those two needs pull in opposite directions, that's when the pressure builds. And you can really see that tension in the questions each side is asking. The franchisor is up at 30,000 feet, worried about the big picture. How do I scale this thing without losing control or our unique culture? But the franchisee, they're focused on their world, right here on the ground. How do I grow my one location and build my team? They're asking completely different questions. And that disconnect, that is the fault line. So you might be wondering, how does this tension turn into actual real-world problems? Well, when that fault line is ignored, you start to see very visible cracks appear all across the business. And listen, these are not small issues. We're talking about high franchisee turnover because people just feel left out in the cold. You get a totally inconsistent customer experience from one location to the next, which just kills the brand you worked so hard to build. And of course, growth slows to a crawl, and your support teams are stretched so thin they're about to snap. It's a mess. Okay, so how on earth do you fix this? Well, the answer isn't about writing better manuals or creating more processes. It actually takes a fundamental shift in mindset, a shift from thinking about operations to really embracing leadership. The very first step is realizing you can't solve this with a better checklist. The systems that got you launched, they were probably designed for running one great location, not a whole growing network. The tools that got you here won't get you there. And that's the crucial point. This is a leadership challenge, plain and simple. It's about that tough transition from being an operator, the person who does all the work, to being a leader who empowers other people to do the work. It's moving from working in your business to working on your business. And how do you do that? How do you lead? It's all about building a strong, intentional culture. A culture that you can replicate and scale right alongside your business operations, making sure every single franchisee feels connected to that bigger vision. This quote from the source material just nails it. You're not just selling a business model, you're franchising a culture. That's the glue. That's what builds the trust and the consistency you need to grow a healthy, successful network that lasts. Okay, so if the answer is leadership and culture, what does that actually look like in practice? Well, the source lays out a really clear 4-pillar framework designed to bridge that dangerous post-launch gap. First up, there's performance growth support. This is all about giving ongoing advice on how to expand and build great teams. Then you've got franchisee review partnerships, which help create accountability and just make those relationships stronger. Third, and this one is so important, is franchisor development and coaching. This is about helping the founder build their own leadership muscles. And finally, it all comes together with culture creation, which is defining and embedding those core values across the whole network. So, what's the end game here? The ultimate goal of all this work is a really profound transformation for the franchisor themselves. It's about moving from being a business owner to becoming a true network leader. And that transition, that's what determines if the franchise succeeds in the long run. And this distinction, it's everything. Look, anyone can run one successful business, but it takes a real leader to guide and inspire a whole network of other business owners to make them all feel like part of something bigger. I absolutely love this metaphor. It just illustrates the ongoing role of the franchisors so perfectly. The consultant, they build you a great ship, a solid business model. But that's just the beginning. Someone has to actually captain that ship, navigate through storms, and keep the whole crew working together. That's the real job. So we'll leave you with this one big question to think about. Are you building a business or are you leading a network? For any founder in the franchising world, that is the essential question. Because answering it honestly is the first step to avoiding that fault line and building a brand that doesn't just launch, but truly, truly lasts.